All right. I am Agro. This is the Gaming Emporium. Today we are going to be covering the skill tree for Starfield. I am over 275 hours in. I have two characters, and I have just completed my third go around on New Game Plus. So these are going to be things that I personally wish I had done sooner, and focused on sooner when I started. So kind of to dive right in, full disclaimer here, obviously these are all my opinions. Everybody is going to want to play this game a little bit differently, and I do understand that. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. This is how I have elected to play this game. But I will be covering maybe some of the skills to focus on if you are playing a little bit differently than I am here. The first skill tree that we have here is physical. And so obviously, backstory and, traits when you create your character. I'll do a separate video on that. But I do want to say that one of the things that I highly recommend if you're just starting this game is go with your traits and backstory that is going to provide you extra dialogue and extra story in the game. Okay, these skills can always be leveled up later, and you will have plenty of playthroughs to get the right skills going. And all of your skills actually they carry over to New Game Plus, but also your progress towards those skills. And I'll get into that a little bit here as well. But let's start off here today with physical. I like to call these basically quality of life skills. They are not necessarily going to affect combat too much unless you are playing a more melee style or stealth style gameplay. So as you can see here, I have not focused very heavily on physical. There are definitely a few here that I do want to continue to upgrade. But just starting on the top level, so you have 4 tiers in each skill tree, or each section of the skill tree. So you can see the first section here is going to be gray, right? Gray is automatically available. As soon as you get a new skill point, you can level up at least level 1 on any one of these skills. So the biggest ones that you can see that I have focused on, I have fully maxed out weightlifting. Weightlifting allows you to carry more, and it also says gain 50% resistance to stagger at this stage here, which is the final stage. But mostly this is going to be how you increase your carrying capacity. Anybody who has played a Bethesda game before knows you get over encumbered very easily, very quickly, and very often. So that is one skill that I 100% recommend you diving deep into really as soon as you can. Now, with the small caveat that actually in the game, if you are over encumbered, it will not necessarily affect things too heavily. So let's say you are, just grabbing absolutely everything that you can. What you'll find is combat will be a problem. You basically drain your oxygen levels, but then your CO2. Now, once the CO2 completely fills up that oxygen tank, it's going to start affecting your overall health. But it cannot kill you. It's not going to completely drain your health, and you're not going to fall over and do the classic, So you can use your companions, you can use your ships to store these items, and as long as you do it effectively, you don't necessarily have to level this up right away. Fitness allows you to have more oxygen available, which therefore in an over encumbered state would allow you to have more time before it starts affecting your health. So if you're in combat a lot, stuff like that, and you like to carry a lot of stuff around, this can be a great skill for you. In most of the quest lines, there are at least going to be 1 or 2 different specific quests that they they really lean towards that stealth component. So I definitely recommend at least getting rank 1 in stealth, because without this, you are not going to have a stealth meter, as it says there. Now, that is important because every game that we have played in Bethesda, you can see whether or not you are hidden or you are not hidden. So I personally went through my first playthrough not really focusing anything on stealth, and I ended up on a Ryujin quest that is very difficult if you don't have any stealth. So even though I only have level 1 and I'm not that stealthy, I do have that stealth meter. So I can see, hey, does somebody see me here or not? That is very important. And also keep in mind too, your armor, if you are in stealth mode and you're wearing heavy armor, this is something that I found on YouTube, very helpful. You are going to make a lot of noise. So even if you have this stealth, maxed out, if you're wearing heavy armor, you may still get caught, right? So one of the recommendations that I have for you there is, if you are on a stealth mission, get an armor that is lighter, or just take your armor off. You have your apparel too, which has some benefits to it and some stacks. So keep that in mind. Now, the other ones that you'll see here on the top are boxing. Obviously, this is going to be for melee damage, and also it is going to allow you to basically use less oxygen. Now, I don't personally focus on melee. I like using the guns. I have elected to not really focus on that. But one thing that I kind of find is, you get a lot of credits, if you're going through your playthrough, you're doing your quests, you're selling all of the things that you pick up, you're going to have quite a bit of credits. And if that's the case, you can always find your health packs, your trauma packs, your emergency packs, and those are going to, kind of alleviate the need for you to have a lot of maximum health. So I've elected to just kind of go the route of stocking up on those packs and using them through your playthrough. When you go through your playthrough, one thing that I will tell you is favorite your items. Your items, like your med packs, you want to have quick access to that. So I am playing on PC, but I am using my Xbox controller. If you press up or down or left or right on the D-pad, you can actually have those favorited items ready to go. I always put those 3 packs: your med pack, which doesn't even have any weight to it, so you can store as many of those as you want. I always favorite that, the trauma pack, the emergency pack. That way, in combat, once I bring up that menu, which I'll show you just here real quickly, you will be able to slow down time just, temporarily. So here you will be able to do that. You can even hear Sarah Morgan's voice kind of getting a little weird right there. Moving on to basically the next section now, advanced section or advanced tier on this, you will have to at least have 4 skill points attached to that skill tree. So as you can see here, since I've maxed that out, even without these, I would be able to then level up some of these, right? Now, this advanced tier is going to have to do a lot with how you move around the environment, for instance, your environmental conditions. So you gain resistance to airborne environmental damage. Not very important, in my opinion, in the game, just because you're not going to be in those conditions for very long. And again, use your health packs, use your bandages, use those things that are going to allow you to cure these ailments, instead of spending so much, so much of your skill tree on these things. Now, that is just my personal opinion. Obviously, each to each their own. But yes, this one, not very important to me, to be honest. Now, you can see if you do level these up a lot, though, you will be able to almost just walk around freely on just about any planet, right? So that can be cool, and it does have its advantages. Now, this one, energy weapon dissipation. So your energy damage, is reduced. So rather, What I mean by that is if you are encountering enemies, right, that are using energy weapons, like for instance turrets, stuff like that. Now, some turrets do use ballistic as well, so keep that in mind. But again, not very important in my opinion. Now, this is one gymnastics that I have actually been meaning to upgrade. Haven't quite done it yet, but one thing that's kind of annoying is fall damage. You're quite susceptible to fall damage, especially when you start leveling up your boost pack. So it doesn't really do very much damage to you though. So for the most part, I haven't really had too many issues with this, but this can be a fun combat mechanic, right? Because it unlocks the combat slide, and then obviously as you level it up, you're going to see much better stats, for that. But again, I mean, this is definitely something that can add an element to combat and gameplay, and so for that reason, I would say I definitely recommend you at least getting that combat slide. But past that, there's not a whole lot here that really makes a big difference. So moving on from that, nutrition. Now, this is one of my gripes with Starfield. I don't have many. I do love the game. Of course, it's not perfect. No Bethesda game or any game in general is perfect, but food and drinks in this game do absolutely nothing for you. They really don't. And you would have to level this up quite considerably just for them to do that. Now, they also all take up weight, whereas your packs do not take up very much weight. I think 0.10 for the emergency pack in the trauma pack, but for your regular med pack, it does not take up any room in your inventory. So I would definitely stay away from the nutrition unless you are just wanting to be a Starfield cook. So keep that in mind there. Definitely do not recommend going too deep into that one, at least not at first. Now, the last one here is pain tolerance. And again, obviously, this one is pretty important, just like the health or the oxygen. It definitely will help your playthrough. It'll make it a little more convenient for you. You will not have to go into healing yourself as often, those types of things. So this one can be a really good one. So as far as so far from ones that I have not upgraded, I would say wellness and pain tolerance are going to be some of your best ones. And then getting that combat slide can be pretty cool as well. Now, the third here, again, is going to focus a lot on how you can interact with the environment, right? So these two, decontamination and cellular regeneration. Now, this one is pretty cool, right? You basically recover more quickly, right? From any injury or damage that you took, and that can definitely be helpful. The thing is, though, in this game, after 2 days, all ailments will cease. Really, if you find a bed, which are in just about every scenario where you're going to be in combat, you sleep on that bed for 1 hour and you are going to have full health. You sleep on that bed for, again, a whole 2 days, you are going to cure any and all ailments that you have. So, again, minor inconvenience, but overall, not that big of a deal in my opinion. Now, decontamination, same thing, right? These are infections. These are things that you will basically get throughout the game, through combat, and through being in maybe hazardous environments, right? This can definitely be helpful. Not necessarily that big of a skill to go into, in my opinion, though. And then martial arts. Now, this one, again, if you are wanting to just go full melee on everybody and just go ham on them, this one can be really, really fun. I personally don't like playing this game like that. I do like using the weaponry, and which we'll get into in a minute, but crafting the best weapons, right? So this one I'm not too concerned with. Probably won't level it up very quickly at all. Again, definitely, if you are going to be playing this just melee, this is going to be a key component to your skills that you want to upgrade, along with, of course, boxing there. Now, the third is going to be, these are your master skills. So if you have these skills, these are always going to provide great benefits, but it takes a lot to get to them. So I guess I skipped over expert here. This tier, you need 8 skill points upgraded in this skill tree to obtain any one of these. So again, these completely open. Now, if you want to level up any skill in the game, if you don't already know, you need to complete certain challenges. As you can see here, for instance, with fitness, you need to use up all your oxygen 20 times, right? And each time that you upgrade that, it is going to be a little more challenging to get to that next tier. So here, we are freely open in the just basic skills. Advanced skills, 4 skill points have to be invested into this specific skill tree. Then you go to 8, then you go to 12. So 12 is a lot. And again, as you can see here, I have not focused very heavily on physical. So it is going to take me a long time to get to that master level. But I'm okay with that in this category because I don't see a lot of value in a lot of these skills. So this is probably the best one in this mix, other than weightlifting and what I've already kind of mentioned to you. Concealment. Concealment, if you're playing a more stealth type of playthrough, you are 100% going to want to upgrade stealth. You are going to want to get concealment as quickly as you can here. As you can see, no longer setting off enemy mines, mild, but the big thing there is obviously if you set off a mine, unless you grab it in time, they're going to know that you're there, right? And it's going to completely kill your cover. So sneak attacks do more damage. That is pretty big, right? Because you will come up on outposts in areas that they don't know you're there yet. And if you have a good enough gun with a little bit of a scope, you can do some crazy damage before they even get there. Now, the rank 3 is really where this starts to get interesting. So you gain a chameleon-like ability when completely still and sneaking. This is very cool, but I will say that this is a trait that you will unlock in some of your gear, right? So if you get a helmet or you get a spacesuit, or even a boost pack, these things can show up in those, and so you don't necessarily always need this right away, right? But again, this is a pretty good one as far as the physical skill tree here. Now, neuro strikes. This one again, if you are playing, in a more melee style, you can see this first rank 1 is going to grant you a pretty cool stat to potentially stun them. And as you go through here, again, if you're playing melee, you'll want to get this one. This will definitely be nice. Basically, it will ground, stun those opponents, and then they'll be easier to ground eventually and just take care of quickly. Rejuvenation. Now, this one is actually pretty cool. You get to regenerate your health. I will say one of the downsides is I do sometimes feel like, oh man, my health is kind of low. I just went through a pretty big battle there, and there's no bed in sight, and I need to get my health going back up. Now, again, if you've been paying attention to how many med packs and all of those things that you have, you should be fine. But this allows you to, as you can see, regenerate health outside of combat, which is absolutely awesome. So this is definitely a skill that I would recommend if you are going to focus on the physical aspect of the skill tree here. That is a pretty good one. That is going to be your physical section there. Going over to social. Now, this is definitely, I feel like, one of the top 3 out of the 5 to focus on. But again, it's going to depend on your play style and what you are doing there. As you can see, I have maxed out commerce. This simply allows you to buy items for less and sell items for more. Now, you will run into a lot of vendors running out of money, especially if you're like me and you pick up everything that has even remote value to it. But still, you can just wait, for 24 hours, or you can sleep for 24 hours, and those inventories and basically their amount of credits will reset. And then you can just go in, do it again over and over until you have all of your items sold, and you have a bunch of credits. So commerce, definitely an important one in my opinion. You can never have too many credits. It's one of the biggest aspects of this game. The more credits you have, the more fun you'll have, and that is just a fact. So that is commerce for you. Now, gastronomy, this one, again, in my opinion, the food, the drinks, honestly, they need to be updated. I mean, to give you a little bit of a breakdown of it, I think a trauma pack, which gives you the least amount of health of anything, 30% of your health, I believe it is. So food and drink, even if you get some of the most, I guess, helpful food items in the game, they're gonna do maybe like 12, right? 12 to 15 points on your health. And right now, without any upgrades, I think I'm sitting at maybe 800 overall. Again, it's not gonna make a big difference. Now you can craft better, food and drink items, and yes, maybe that'll help a little bit. But again, keep in mind these are going to over encumber you as crafting these items and keeping them in your inventory, whereas med packs do not at all. So gastronomy, I would almost completely stick away from unless you are, again, trying to be a Michelin starborn cook. So that is that one. Now, persuasion. This is a very important one in the game. You're going to have a lot of dialogue options in the game to persuade people to do certain things, and it will really save you a lot of time. If you're trying to focus on getting the task or quest done as quickly as possible, persuading these people or intimidating these people, using negotiation or diplomacy, these are going to be big dialogue options that help you throughout the game. I've elected for persuasion for my playstyle, but again, if you want to take a more aggressive approach, intimidation could be really cool. Diplomacy definitely could be cool as well. And there's something in the game called neuroamps, actually available in a few locations, but most accessible on Neon. Once you start your Ryujin Industries quest line, you have access to neuroamps, and they can actually help increase these things. Can help your stat line. So persuasion, definitely something that I recommend. Without this, my first playthrough, I was getting a little frustrated because it is very hard to persuade people in this game. Now, you also obviously have aids, like I think Hippolyta, which allows you to increase your persuasion by 20%. So that would almost rank you up to this rank 2 without you even having this skill set. So keep that in mind. Definitely there are ways around almost any skill in this game, but persuasion is going to be a big one. Now, scavenging. This one obviously can be very good. Again, I just mentioned, and I don't think I'm alone in this, a lot of Bethesda games, you like to grab everything and you like to get as many items of value as you can before you go sell those items. So scavenging can be really cool. It allows you to obtain extra credits, extra ammo, extra med packs, all of that stuff. And it definitely is very helpful. Now, if you level up the skill entirely, tracked resources will get highlighted. That is going to be key as well if you are trying to craft. Definitely a big component of the game is crafting different things, and you're going to need a lot of resources, and it's hard to kind of keep track of which ones you need. So tracked resources will get highlighted. That is definitely key there. So that is a good one to upgrade for sure. Now, if you are going with a stealth kind of playthrough, theft definitely is going to be one that you want to pick up as early as you can. Unlock the ability to pickpocket targets, and obviously more success as you kind of level that skill up. So that is going to be a pretty big one for people playing like that. In your advanced section here, you have deception. Now this one I've thought a lot about upgrading. As you can see here, your ships, automatically surrendering, sure, that's great, but everybody likes a good ship combat, so I'm not necessarily concerned with that. But the big thing here and the big value in this is enemy contraband scans are 10% less effective. In order to carry contraband and not get scanned, there are two kind of ways to do this. So one, you can go to specific vendors in the game and you can upgrade your ship to have what's called shielded cargo holds. And these are going to allow you to get by with having contraband in spaces that are controlled by the Freestar Collective or, the United Colonies. So, with that being said, though, having a shielded cargo and being able to add a skill like this is going to make it more effective. At the start, if you just have shielded cargo, I believe it's like 56% chance to avoid a scan. So that definitely sounds like you're going to avoid most scans, but obviously as you jump system to system, if you are not keeping track of your inventory, inevitably you're going to end up getting caught at some point. A way around all of this is to go to a place called the Den. The Den in the game, you can actually sell contraband at any time. That space is not controlled by any factions, and so you don't have to avoid a scan. You could just go straight in there. It's in a system called Wolf, and the Wolf system is going to be in close proximity to Alpha Centauri. If you go up here, it's going to be right next to Sol, in between Nerian, Sol, and Alpha Centauri. You got it right here, Wolf system. Okay. Now, also, if you do elect to go with the Crimson Fleet, or you're starting that quest line, you can go to the key as well, which will allow you to also sell those contraband items. Again, you can sell contraband basically at any trade authority or any place not controlled by the United Colonies or Freestar Collective. So keep that in mind. If you go to those places, you can, but you have to avoid those scans. Crix is the Crimson Fleet's kind of area of operation, and within there, you're going to have the key as well. So both of those places are good, but again, the Den is really where most people will go. Very easy to find. Once you go there, you are going to be able to almost automatically see where the key is. It will show up. So, or the Den rather. So back to the skill trees here. As I mentioned earlier, as far as diplomacy and intimidation, I would kind of pick one. Do you want to intimidate people? Do you want to use diplomacy, or do you want to persuade? And just stick to one of those. Since this is a basic skill and can be leveled up right away, I chose persuasion, and it has definitely worked out pretty well for me so far. As far as isolation, this is another one that you will actually see as a trait as well. Do you want to be an introvert, an extrovert? If you are electing to go out into space, by yourself, right? On each planet, you want to just go out on your own, or even if you want to have a robot, like Vasco, for instance, join you. Now, Vasco, to my knowledge, I think he has a little bit better carrying capacity than the others. I may be wrong on that. But if you like to play the game with no companions, isolation definitely can be helpful. I don't like to play like that. I think just even for their extra carrying capacity, they are extremely useful. Not to mention that you can, start relationships with them or start kind of into their own personal quest lines. So I tend to avoid this one, but to each their own there. And then negotiation, and again, just as the other ones, this one can certainly be helpful. But again, bribery, you're going to have to use some credits regardless. And, I just selected persuasion. If I can persuade them to do what I want and keep all my credits in hand, that is how I'm going to do it. So next section here, instigation. Again, another dialogue trait. This one can be fun though. When you have two people up against each other and you're a middleman, you can then instigate them to do something to therefore push your quest line forward. So it can definitely be fun in the dialogue category. And I don't know about you guys, but Bethesda games, I've always loved the dialogue. It's not the most, gripping or anything, but it's pretty funny sometimes, making people interact with each other and kind of, manipulating them into doing different things, right? Now we get to really the most important ones, in my opinion, here are going to be leadership, outpost management. If you plan on building outposts, which I'll get into in a minute, definitely recommend it, then you will want these skills. Now, leadership allows you to gain more affinity with your companions quicker. More importantly, though, as I mentioned, one of the biggest things is having as much carrying capacity as you can at all times, and it increases their health, but also their carrying capacity. And then, rank 3, they occasionally will heal you. That can certainly be nice. There are also traits on spacesuits that will automatically heal you as well, so keep that in mind. Obviously, this one right here definitely can be helpful if you need a little bit of help in firefights. But as you guys can probably imagine, the AI in this game is not breathtaking, it's not amazing. So a lot of your crew, they may help a little bit in combat, but they're definitely not going to be the solution to beating a fight that you otherwise couldn't, right? So definitely not really running into that too much in this playthrough. Leadership can definitely be pretty important, especially on that second tier when you unlock some more carrying capacity. Outpost management, though, this will allow you to create better components for outposts. You'll have more options to choose from, be able to customize your outposts and make them look the way that you want, make them operate the way that you want. And once you get into rank 3, it can be very helpful because having additional crew members at your outpost is going to be key. You will find planets and outposts get attacked, and if you do not have any crew, you have to go around and spend a lot of resources to repair all of these things. Stops production of any resources you're trying to build. So this one can definitely be helpful. And of course, outpost extractors produce twice as fast. That can also be key as well. So keep that all in mind. Outpost management, definitely a good one to go through. You may be thinking, how the hell do you have manipulation when you haven't even spent enough skill tree points to, get that skill? So you unlock manipulation once you complete or get a certain way through the Regen Industries questline on Neon. It definitely is not one of my favorite, factions. I will say, I think that, they kind of squander a little bit of the potential of that quest line, but still getting this almost alone is worth doing the quest line. Manipulation can be really fun. You can make targets do certain things. For instance, you can make them attack somebody else. You can make them open doors maybe that you couldn't, like a security guard who has a security key that you don't. Those types of things. So manipulation definitely is worth getting a hold of as quickly as you can. Once you have it, upgrading it hasn't really been a big focus of mine, but basically allows you to not only in dialogue situations manipulate people into doing what you want, doing your bidding, right? But also in the game, if you want them to open a door, if you want them to attack somebody, leveling this up just means that you will have more success in doing so, and it will last longer. This one, honestly, may be my most important in this social skill tree here at Ship Command. Upgrading this allows you to have additional members on your ship. And so upgrading this and then upgrading your outpost, which we'll get to in a second, will allow you to have more crew members on your ship, on your outposts, and just overall more production, more help. And as you know, each crew member has specific skills that may align with outposts or ships, and having more of them on board means having better stat lines for your ship and your outpost. So definitely important here. Ship Command is something that I plan on getting to as soon as possible. And to be honest with you, the main reason why I have not already kind of focused in on this is because there are two specific skill trees in general, your tech and your science, that I think are highly, highly valuable, especially to the way that I play. But I will say, social persuasion, commerce, definitely very, very helpful. But there aren't a whole lot of skills that I would love to upgrade or have. So again, Ship Command, that is definitely going to be a big one there. And then Xenosociology. So this one basically just allows you to do the same thing, right? You can manipulate instead of humans alien creatures, and this can definitely be helpful in combat. If you are doing the UC quest line, you'll know that one of the big kind of horror features in the game are xenomorphs, and they can be quite challenging, especially if you're doing that quest line when you first start the game. So being able to control them is definitely helpful. Pulling over to combat, you might be thinking, oh my gosh, you haven't worked on any of the combat. And there's a reason for that. So in the game, as I mentioned, building and crafting, spacesuits, weapons, all of those things are going to be highly, highly valuable and allow you to make a gun that, may not be the greatest in the game. You'll be able to upgrade it to a point where it is not only really, really powerful and helpful, but also has specific features that are going to help you and just make it personalized for you in your playthrough. For instance, adding scopes to guns that you want to make sure can do long range damage, or being able to track your enemies with a sensor that you have upgraded on your gun. So I've elected to kind of go more of the crafting route and not necessarily worry too much about the damage being done. But I will say some of the key features or key, I guess, skills that I would recommend here. Ballistics is definitely one. More often than not, you're going to have more guns in your inventory that you are using that are ballistic than you will lasers or energy, right? So this definitely can be super helpful, especially because this is not just pistols, it's not just rifles, it's not just shotgun, it's any ballistic gun. So definitely recommend, if you're going to focus on combat at all, ballistics is definitely one of them to unlock as early as you can. Now also, one of the guns in the game, Equinox, is a laser gun. Depending on your pre-orders and stuff, you may have even gotten an additional skin for the gun. So I was definitely excited to use the Equinox at first. It's definitely not that powerful, but it can be helpful. And one of the sources of ammo that you will never have trouble finding is lasers, right? Your 3KV or 1KV cartridges, those are going to be at just about any vendor that you can find. And if you like the feel of the Equinox, it is one of the least damaging guns in the game. And so upgrading the damage of it, of course, could make it a much, much more viable option. So ballistics, definitely, I would recommend. The other ones, again, dueling, if you are going to be playing a more melee-based playthrough, definitely recommend that, obviously. But your other ones, pistol certification, shotgun, it's not that important, right? Now, on to the next stage here, we have demolitions. I try to keep those in my inventory at all times. So definitely upgrading demolitions, it's going to allow them to be more effective. Obviously, who would not like that? And it can take out a large range of enemies in kind of one fell swoop. So that one could be very nice. Heavy weapons, again, if one of the guns that I love using in the game is a Bridger, and it is extremely hard to find ammo for. But if you do have a lot of ammo for a gun like the Bridger, it basically is a grenade launcher shotgun almost. So being able to have a more effective damage on that could definitely be helpful, but it is also one of the most damaging guns in the game. So I don't necessarily think it needs it. Incapacitation, these, for stealth missions gone wrong, right? You will want an electromagnetic weapon. It does not make anyone cease to exist, let's say. It simply incapacitates them, and being able to do more damage makes that happen quicker. So that can definitely be a key one, again, for stealth. Just in case something goes wrong, you could just knock them out, right? Particle beams, rifle certification, again, if you're going to level up particle beams, for instance, I mean, I would start with lasers. They are a little bit different here, but overall, again, just not that important. Rifle certification, it's a ballistic, right? Just upgrade ballistics. So that is going to be that for you. Now, in this category here, marksmanship, you got rapid reloading, sniper, and targeting. And I would say definitely the most important here are going to be rapid reloading. You will find yourself reloading a lot in this game, especially depending on the weapon that you have. It may be chugging through your ammo really, really quickly. So the ballistic, weapons and then energy, right? You're going to have to upgrade it if you are using a multitude of different types of weaponry. But this rapid reloading definitely is a valuable skill to have there. And targeting here, increased accuracy and range. That is always going to be helpful. That definitely is, these are probably the two most, potentially helpful along with ballistics here in this category. Again, sniper certification, marksmanship is essentially just critical hit chance. And again, this can definitely be helpful as well. But as you can see, it's non-automatic ranged weapons. I don't like using fully automatic weapons in the game anyways. I like to craft them to make them semi-automatic or burst. So that could be definitely a helpful one as well. Armor penetration, as the name of the skill states, you are going to be able to pierce through armor quicker, right? So that can definitely still be helpful. But again, I have not noticed in my multiple playthroughs a time where I really struggled with beating through the armor too quickly, right? It takes a little bit extra ammo, but that's about it. Crippling, same thing. You have a chance to make them down, in a down state. When they're in a down state, they're kind of one hit away from being done, right? Normally, just to save the ammo, I just go up to them, pop them in the face, they're done, right? So that definitely can be helpful. Again, all skills are going to provide obviously some sort of benefit. It just depends on your style of playthrough. And then sharpshooting here, headshot, critical damage on ranged weapons, right? So if you're playing the stealth and sniper, maybe that would be a good combo for using something like sharpshooting there. Now we're going to go to one of my favorite categories, which is science. And you can see I have definitely focused heavily on the science skill tree here. Going from left to right here on the basic skills, you have astrodynamics. This is going to allow you to grab jump further, less fuel cost involved in grab jumping. I don't necessarily mind. This is one of those kind of convenience features, right? It's not gonna, drastically change the way that you're playing the game. I personally don't think you'll notice too much of a difference by not upgrading this skill. Just means that you have to make a couple grab jumps instead of just going straight to a location. So that one, not super helpful in my opinion, which is why I've elected to stay away from it. Now, geology, this one is definitely very helpful. If you are going to be crafting items, you are going to need a lot of resources, and before you can have a lot of resources, you have to be able to see those resources, and you have to be able to gain as many as you can, because buying resources in the game is definitely a money pit. So you want to find ways around having to buy these resources, in my opinion, and having this be higher just allows you to get better resources and more of them. So geology, definitely an important one. As you can see, I've only leveled it up to level 1 though, because as we're going to get into here, there are definitely more important skills in this skill tree. Now, this is one that actually in my first playthrough I did upgrade quite considerably, which is your medicine. Making med packs, trauma packs, and emergency kits more effective. And this is definitely going to be key. Again, if you are not leveling up your health, reducing the damage that you take from enemies, medicine is going to be probably a skill that you want to focus on. The reason I haven't is because, again, playing on normal, you're not going to be in those situations very often when you just feel like, oh shit, I'm about to die. So that one definitely can be key though. And as you can see, the more you level them up, I mean, if you level it up to rank 4, you won't need a whole lot of inventory space for your items, right? Just carry a bunch of med packs. They'll quickly heal you. I guess, just since we're on the topic, what's the difference of each one? Now, they all give you different health stats. So your emergency kits are going to restore the most health out of anything. Your med packs are going to restore a pretty considerable amount of your health. I would say probably a little bit around half, maybe a little more. And then your trauma packs, they increase your health the least amount of everything, but they are the quickest to do so, When you use a trauma pack, it is going to be increasing your health considerably. So if you're on your last leg and you use a med kit, you may be done by the time that is going. If you have a lot of enemies around you, it may not even be worth it, right? So the trauma pack is key if you need health really quickly. If you're in combat, definitely trauma packs are the way to go. So this definitely can be super helpful to upgrade. I think that's enough on the medicine, but definitely an important skill to have. One of the most important, in my opinion, skills to have is research methods. If you are wanting to craft, if you are wanting to do outposts, if you're wanting to do spacesuit upgrades, if you're wanting to do weapon upgrades, you're going to not only have to unlock and collect that skill and the resources, but you are also going to have to research how to build these things. So just because you upgraded, weapon engineering to level 1 does not mean that you could just instantly go in and start upgrading your weapons. You have to research these methods first, which makes it one of the most important skills in the game if you are going to be crafting a lot. Research methods, as you can see, definitely allows you to kind of cut those resources a little bit down. You can see resources required are going to be reduced quite considerably, and you'll be able to complete research methods much quicker. One thing that will happen as you see your research method skills level up is you're going to go in with a certain subset of resources needed for that research project, and you might go halfway through with the resources and the complete research method that you are looking at. For instance, weapon upgrades, it might just automatically trigger the rest without you using any additional resources. So that can be really cool. And again, definitely a minor annoyance in the game is how many resources you need, really, not only to research, but then also to go out and craft these items. So anything that can save you some resources is definitely going to be helpful there. So research methods, definitely important. Surveying, as you can see, I do not have this unlocked yet. It definitely is helpful. I've had it unlocked in previous playthroughs, but essentially it allows you to have a larger surveying view, and you have a level of zoom as well. So if you find yourself going and exploring these planets, this can definitely be very helpful. To be honest with you guys, though, most of these planets do not have a whole lot on them. You're going to be able to see specific areas of interest regardless of whether you have the skill leveled up or not. Not necessarily that big of a deal, in my opinion. One of the least important skills in this, but I will say it is nice, and I do find myself sometimes thinking like, man, I wish I could see just a little bit further. So surveying, at least leveling up once or twice, can definitely be helpful. Botany, this one, again, anytime that you are going to be using plant resources to craft items, this is going to be helpful. Just allows you to get more and more rare resources. So definitely keep that in mind. That one can be a good one. I don't find myself really needing those types of resources very often, though. Scanning. Now this one, as opposed to the surveying, scanning is very, very helpful and very important. So scanning has to do with scanning ships in orbit, finding resources by scanning planets. One thing, if you are going to be building outposts, you need to have scanning enabled, and you need to upgrade it, because you're not going to be able to see the resources on planets without it, right? You're going to be able to see just very common resources that aren't necessarily that important. So being able to level this up, it's going to allow you to see exactly what resources are on each planet, even the more rare and exotic ones. And also it's going to give you more information about ships in combat, which is a nice little touch. So this one definitely on the outpost building side. And if you are finding yourself trying to track down resources often to craft items, this is going to be key. You'll be able to build an outpost, build those resources. They'll be able to kind of just keep chugging along while you're going across the universe there, and that's going to be a really cool one for you. Spacesuit design, as we've talked quite considerably about, spacesuit design is going to allow you to upgrade different components of your spacesuit. For instance, if you want your spacesuit to be able to regenerate health for you, or if you're on low health, as we mentioned earlier, it'll be able to, your spacesuit can actually just put you at ease with a med pack. So this can be helpful. I will say there's a reason. I won't necessarily get into a lot of spoilers in this video, but there is a reason why maybe spacesuit design is a little bit lower on the tier than weapon engineering. Just because there are going to be certain things that you get when you complete the game may alleviate the need for you to upgrade a bunch of components of spacesuits. So this one definitely helpful. I just love crafting. If you're like me and you just love crafting and you know, seeing what different traits you can put on different things, this is still going to be important for you there. Now, again, one of the most important, in my opinion, skills in the game is weapon engineering. It's going to allow you to, same as the spacesuit, just create better weapons. There are different tiers as well for weapons, so keep that in mind. It's not just about what color is associated with them, whether it's a rare, legendary. It also has to do with whether or not it is calibrated, it is I think, revamped, or it can also be an advanced weapon. And those are going to be almost more important because those are going to affect your baseline stats like damage, range, and stuff like that on items. So this one I definitely think is highly, highly important because, you know, you'll come across weapons in the game that you may want to stick to, and maybe as you level up, they're not quite as good. And you don't want to go and spend a bunch of credits to get a better weapon. Well, go and upgrade your own weapons and put exactly what you want on them. And to do that, you'll need weapon engineering. And a lot of this is tied to another thing, which we'll get into in a section below this. But not just upgrading this, but also upgrading special projects. At least to level 1, you'll need that skill to be able to kind of fully complete a weapon to the best of your ability. So keep that in mind. Zoology, this allows you to get more resources from essentially creatures, right? Creatures will have certain resources, plants do, and then of course your rocks, you know, your materials across that planet. So this one can be key if you want to start crafting or building outposts that you have creatures attached to them and are kind of farming their resources as well. This will be important. I haven't focused on that too much because from what I find, you're not going to get things from them that are necessarily going to affect too much upgrading your weapons, your spacesuit, or your outpost. So I haven't focused on that, but it can definitely be helpful. If you just want to be a boss, master, outpost builder, you'll probably want to have that skill. Astrophysics. So you can scan the moons of your current planet. You have a 10% chance to discover a trait when scanning. This one is definitely important, almost just as important as the scanning trait. So this one basically just makes it more effective. Instead of having to take your ship and travel to these different planets and moons and all of that, it definitely takes a little bit more time. So being able to scan the moons of any planet that you are within orbit of, or system, for instance, that can definitely help. So this is a big skill. I have not focused on it, but it is definitely going to be one that I focus on here very soon. So chemistry, basically improved improved items that you can craft there. And again, this is going to be pretty helpful as well because being able to craft certain items like bandages and stuff like that that are going to cure your ailments, it can be helpful to be able to craft those items without having to go and buy them, because again, credits are king in this game, and the more that you can keep on you, the more cool things you can do within the game, like buying apartments and upgrading your ship and all of that kind of stuff. So all of that requires a pretty considerable amount of credits. So you'll want to keep those on hand as much as you can. This one is definitely important, not quite as important for me personally. There are plenty of credits to go around. What I do is I stack up on meds and stuff like that. There is a item called Panacea, I believe it is, that cures all ailments. It is definitely one of the most highly valued aids in the game. So if you're just buying them, they are going to take quite a bit of credits. But to my knowledge, you cannot craft those things. So being able to just buy them, cure all ailments, instead of crafting all these items and storing all these resources, definitely be helpful, especially when you already have so many resources that you're storing for things like outpost building, which takes the most in the game out of anything as far as resources are concerned. So chemistry, definitely an important one, but one you could probably avoid if you need to. Outpost engineering, this one again is going to be very, very important. I actually maxed this out in my last playthrough. I have not done that in this playthrough. Haven't really been focusing on outposts at this stage, but I do plan on doing that. So right now I'm just trying to kind of level my guy up as much as possible, get through New Game Plus. As you guys will find out if you haven't already, there is a pretty good amount of replayability in New Game Plus, and being able to kind of get through all of that and maxing everything out is kind of my main focus right now. But we'll cover that in another video. So outpost engineering, definitely, if you are wanting to build outposts, it is a must-have. You absolutely have to have it, and the more you upgrade it, the cooler your outpost is going to be. Onto your master items here. As I already mentioned, we'll start with special projects. You have to at least level this up once. If you don't, you're not going to be able to craft very good items. In the grand scheme of things, you're not going to be able to change a gun considerably. So being able to completely craft this all the way up, your special projects, obviously it helps to level it up, but at least get it to level 1 so that you could start unlocking those research projects that you need. So that is going to be that one. Planetary habitation, again, outpost. This is all about outpost management. You cannot build an outpost on a planet that is hazardous. So if you want, sometimes those are the planets that have the best resources. So being able to have planetary habitation allows you to not only build an outpost there, but as you can see, increase the amount of outposts you have, which is very important because each planet is going to have different resources. And as I mentioned earlier, you are going to need a lot of different types of resources to be able to craft superior items for your spacesuit, for your outpost, and for your weapons. So this is key. Definitely get that when you can. And I would say overall, science should be definitely a skill tree that you are focusing on. And then this, I don't even know how to say this, anetronic fusion, I believe. Okay, so this one gives you extra units of power for your ship. And to be honest with you, it kind of bugs me when I am not at full capacity, right? You'll upgrade your ship to this, really superior ship that can do everything. And then you're like, well, shit, I don't have enough power to fully upgrade this. So having more units of power is definitely important. This is another skill that I'm going to be focused on here, soon in this playthrough. Having more units of power allows you to have more power put towards your grav jump, for instance, alleviating the need for the aforementioned skill that we talked about, or putting it towards your weapons. I would say that's the big one, because the more power you have on your weapons, the quicker they reload, the longer it takes for them to deplete. It's definitely going to help you in ship combat. So that is definitely an important one there. And then on to our last section here, tech. As you can see, I also have heavily focused on tech, and that is because I love ship combat. I love ship building, and it is something that you are going to definitely want to do in this game. If you want to fully experience Starfield, you're going to want to play around with the ships. It is absolutely fantastic. So a lot of these, again, just as your combat skill tree has, you're going to have certain weapon systems, and being able to upgrade how effective and efficient they are definitely can be important, especially in your first playthrough. If you are focusing on shipbuilding, you'll want to probably focus on some of these. Now, the reason that I don't have these, again, without any spoilers, you are going to get certain items at the end of your playthrough, and it may alleviate the need for some of these skills, and I will leave it at that. I definitely don't want to ruin anybody's time playing the game. But yeah, I mean, definitely This is something that I don't think is as necessary. One thing, and again, this without boost pack training, you're not playing Starfield right. You have to at least upgrade it, and you will find if you just unlock the boost pack on skill 1, you're gonna be like, this boost pack sucks. So being able to upgrade this, use less fuel, regenerate more quickly, it's definitely going to be helpful, and it's going to allow you to traverse these large planets, especially when you don't have any transportation around the planet. Definitely going to be important there. So keep that in mind. This boost pack training, I would almost level it up as quickly as you can. And then you have piloting. So piloting is important for two reasons. Your first skill that you unlock allows you to use ship thrusters. Definitely going to help you maneuver, especially if you're still using the Frontier, the main ship that you get at the start of the game, or if you're using a Class A ship that's not necessarily that great, you haven't updated it or upgraded it yet. Ship thrusters allows you to be able to make those turns and adjustments better, right? And the second, almost even more important, it along with the ship thrusters, it will really make a difference in how you kind of navigate ship combat. So this is going to be a really important skill, but really where it becomes highly, highly important, you're going to unlock ships in the game, mini ships, and through a lot of different quest lines, you're going to find ships that you're like, oh my gosh, this ship is awesome. So here's the thing though, there are three classes of ships. There's Class A, which you start out the game being able to pilot, and then you have Class B, Class C. You'll want to get to Class C because you'll find yourself at some point in the game being like, oh damn, why did I not focus on piloting sooner? And there are a few tips that I would give you as far as getting this stat line filled out as quickly as you can, because once you upgrade these, you're going to have to eliminate a certain amount of ships to be able to get to that next level. And it can be a little daunting at first. You're going to be like, damn, like 50 ships? I gotta do 50 ships? That's going to take me forever. So in the UC questline, you will be able to do a piloting simulation, and that one you can go back and do at any time. That is going to be your best friend if you're trying to upgrade your piloting skill tree. So remember, on Jemison in the Alpha Centauri system, go to the Mass District, talk to Commander Tagon or whatever his name is, and you will want to sign up to be in the Vanguard. Not to mention that it is probably the best faction in the game and probably has the best quest line out of any of the quest lines in the game, and arguably kind of stands tall and even up to the original main story, right? So those are going to be kind of your two most, at least for me, intriguing storylines. So signing up for UC Vanguard, I would recommend regardless, and I would do it quickly in the game. I would definitely make it a pretty big priority to kind of get done quickly in the game. That piloting simulation that you do at the start of that faction quest line is going to be key in upgrading your piloting. So I just wanted to mention that as we're on the topic here. Beyond piloting, you have security. This one goes without saying, right? As a Bethesda game, we all know lockpicking, having lockpicks, it can be kind of annoying, right? And so lockpicks in this game, they're called digipicks. You will want to upgrade security. If you're like me, no stone left unturned type playthrough, you will want to upgrade this and be able to unlock those chests and lockers as quickly as possible, because they don't always contain the best items, but they do contain good items. And especially if you get up to the master level of locks, you will find good guns, you will find good items in those crates, in those chests, in those areas. And for instance, even some of the contraband chests you're going to have to unlock. So definitely be focused on security. If you play anything like me, you will thank yourself later. So that's going to be that. Targeting control system, as you can see, I haven't really leveled this up too much. I'm not a huge fan of the lock on the ship. It can be nice, but I kind of like a more simplistic approach to ship combat. I see you, I shoot you, I don't really need to lock on. As long as I'm close, I can aim. It's a very forgiving aiming system. You're not going to have a problem with it. But definitely, you want to at least unlock your ship targeting function because it can be helpful in certain situations where maybe you're overwhelmed. You'll be able to focus in on somebody's, grav drive or their engine and shut down their engine completely, so they're just sitting there helpless, right? So this is going to be pretty important to at least unlock, but not necessarily important to fully upgrade, in my opinion. So we're going to get into the next section, the advanced section here. Energy weapons, again, not really that big of a deal for me. Engine systems, your top speed. By adding engines onto your ship, which of course you are limited to how many you can add, but you can kind of affect this by yourself by upgrading and building your own ship. So I don't really focus on that one too much. Payloads, again, as we've talked about time and time again in this video, carrying capacity is so important in this game. And ultimately, your ship is your safe haven for your items. If you have your items on your ship, you can craft anywhere at stations and it will say that you have those items, right? So inevitably, you're going to end up putting your items in your ship because it can store considerable amount of inventory compared to what you can. So upgrading this, I really am actually a little pissed that I'm only at rank 3. I leveled it up completely last time, and on my second playthrough, just haven't quite gotten there yet. It's hard because you have to do this. Make 50 grav jump drives with 75% or more of your maximum capacity. Now, depending on how you're playing the game, if you're playing the game like I did on my first playthrough, that's not going to be hard because you're going to be at full capacity a lot of the times if you're trying to build a bunch of outposts and do all of those things. But in this playthrough, since I have not focused on outpost building, this has been not as big of a focus. But again, I'll get into it on another video about New Game Plus mode specifically, but especially in New Game Plus mode, this is going to be very important to upgrade. So keep that in mind. Payloads, if you find yourself being able to upgrade this, it is always an easy one to go for, especially if you don't know what to spend the point on. So that is that one. Shield systems, again, same thing. Your shields in the game, as far as your ships are concerned, they can go down pretty quickly. It costs a lot to get ship repairs, and ship repairs don't necessarily do a whole lot for your ship. I think pairing your ship, may put it back to like 50% capacity or something. But when you're in combat and it's not really pushing that meter up or filling that up very quickly, and it's not going to be filling it up, to max, max health or max shield or hull, I guess, is that what they call it in the game. Shield systems is going to be big. So I've fully upgraded that. Honestly, at this point, my ship is a little bit of a god. People cannot touch me, and it feels good to be able to just take them all out in one swoop. So that is shield combat or shield systems. You will want to upgrade that for sure. Same thing here. I'm honestly not even really going to go into too far of detail on these specific weapon types. I will say in your first playthrough, or if you find yourself with a ship that you really love and you want to keep it and play through the game with it the entirety of the game, find out what weapon systems you use. You can do that by going into Shipbuilder and pressing, if you're like me and playing with a controller, you press your front bumper button or front trigger button, and it will take you over to your weapon systems. It will tell you what type of weapons you have on your ship. So, if you like the weapons you have, or if you upgrade to different weapons, make sure that you're upgrading these skills for that specific weapon. There's nothing worse than upgrading one of these weapon systems and finding out, oh, I don't even have that weapon on my ship. What the hell? So keep that in mind. Robotics just allows you to deal more damage to robots, turrets. Again, I don't really find a huge use for this. This is more like combat. I don't know why it's necessarily in this section. I guess just because robots are not people, but who knows. This one, I will say a minor inconvenience. If you are in a big firefight in a big, outpost or factory or facility, there are going to most likely be turrets and robots. The robots, not necessarily that cumbersome. The turrets, though, they can be a pain in the ass. So keep that in mind. If you find yourself getting eaten alive by turrets. Upgrade this a few times and tell them to F off. So that's that. Starship design. This one, again, one of the best components of this game, in my opinion, is the shipbuilding. And to be able to build the best ships, you're going to have to upgrade Starship design. So Starship Design is going to allow you to install improved, superior, cutting edge, and experimental ship modules. Now again, this last one here, experimental ship modules, I'm not 100% certain, but I'm pretty sure you need that special projects unlocked. So again, keep in mind, not just for your spacesuit and weapons. This one is key because it is so fun to build a ship, make it the way you like, put the weapons that you like on it, put the portholes. If you guys don't know, I learned this about 75% through my first playthrough. There are things called portholes, which are essentially windows for your ship. And oh my gosh, does it make a difference. When you're in the ship, you can see out, you can see the planet you're on, you can see the stars. It's breathtaking. I love it. So keep that in mind. Definitely, if you are building ships, put some portholes on that thing. So that is Starship Design for you guys. Starship Engineering. Now, I mentioned this earlier, ship combat, one thing that can be a little cumbersome is when you are kind of overwhelmed. For instance, if you're not a part of the Crimson Fleet and you go into the Krill system and you go to the Key, well, there are a bunch of Crimson Fleet ships and they are going to be going after you. So I would avoid that area altogether, even if you do have this, but this allows you to be able to repair your ship 10% faster, but then also increase damage mitigation, repair 25% faster, and then repairing one block of the ship will repair the entire system. That is going to be important if you plan on doing a lot of ship combat and being your own little Mandalorian out there. So Starship Engineering, definitely an important one. Automated weapon systems. Oh man, the automated weapon systems in this game when you are building a ship are awesome. Now, obviously, it takes a little bit away from the playability element or, being able to actually interact with that ship combat, but the automated weapons are awesome. And having a couple of those bad boys on your ship, you're going to be taking out ships that you're not even targeting. You're going to be just flying through those suckers. So if you plan on using your automated weapons to kind of help you a little bit in combat, that's going to be definitely an important one, in my opinion. So we're going to skip that one for a second because I think that's probably the most important. But then you have your electromagnetic weapons. And again, this is only if you're really trying to just shut down ships, maybe be able to go on board those ships and take them as your own. You've probably seen this in other videos if you're finding mine. In the game, if you can disable an engine, get close enough, you can dock that ship, and then you can actually commandeer that ship. Very cool how it works, and definitely a cool little component to being a little space pirate of your own. But I will say, if you do that, you have to then register the ship, which I recommend doing in your inventory just by going over to your ship on the bottom left-hand side of the main menu, and you can register a ship there. It's going to cost you a little bit less, but ultimately, if you're planning on commandeering a bunch of ships and selling them for profit, not the best way to make money in the game, which is another video that I'm going to get to here very shortly for you guys, because again, credits are king. This one, not super important in my opinion, but if you plan on playing your playthrough like that, it could be helpful to have that because you don't want to blow up the ship or you can't register it and sell it. So that's going to be that one. And then our final skill of the day, boost assault training. This one is super cool. Adds, again, just as the combat slide does, this adds an element into combat that is really fun and makes for a more kind of satisfying experience when you're killing your baddies, right? So rank 1, you have basically a little bit of fire right underneath that pack that hits the ground and can not only catch them on fire, but it can knock down your enemy or kind of stun them as well. And really, those two, not that big of a deal, right? But once you get into rank 3, it starts becoming a lot better, right? So you can aim down sights while boosting, and you will hover in place. Now your fuel is still expanded, so again, boost pack, definitely upgrade that bad boy as quickly as you can. But then if you get it to rank 4, the world will slow by 70% around you as well. So super, super cool. The boost assault training, I've had it in my previous playthrough, and it is awesome. It is awesome. Once you get a hang of it, it provides a really great element to combat, and honestly makes you kind of untouchable a little bit, right? Because just like them stormtroopers, a lot of the AI in this game, they do not have the greatest of accuracy, especially at long range. So that is going to be it for today, guys. Thank you for joining me. Definitely leave a like, a comment. Please subscribe. I'm trying to grow this channel. I will be bringing you more Starfield content, more just content in general. I'm going to be covering a number of games, Mortal Kombat, for instance. And tell me in the comments, what did you think of the video? What skills are you guys going to focus on? And what type of extra Starfield content do you guys want in your timeline? Again, my next couple videos, I am going to be covering New Game Plus, what to expect, some of the coolest features of New Game Plus, and then also we are going to be covering the easiest and best ways to make money in Starfield. So definitely keep those notifications on and you will see those videos drop. I'm going to be trying to drop at least 1 to 2 videos a week. Right now I'm focused on Starfield, but let me know in the comments down below. Thank you for joining me today. I am Agro. This is the Gaming Emporium. Peace out.